All right, I believe we're live. Hopefully you can hear me. If you cannot hear me, if you have any trouble, just let us know in the chat box that you're having trouble hearing or seeing. We had just a little bit of technical difficulties when the little counter was going down. It was freezing sometimes. So welcome to this YouTube Live intermittent fasting Q&A. My name is Kayla Cox. I'm the owner of this channel, 6 Miles to Supper. And 6 Miles to Supper kind of is the way I lost weight, I guess you could say. I lost 80 pounds doing intermittent fasting, more specifically eating one meal a day, also known as OMAD, for most of that time. Generally speaking, the way I lost the weight was intermittent fasting. My window, if you want to call it that, was basically I guess you would call it a 23 and a half hour window, I guess, of fasting, and then about 30 minutes of eating. That's about how long it took me to um, eat the food. So, to make it more clear, one meal a day is really the thing. And I also walk 6 miles a day. When I was losing the weight, I would do 6 miles a day, 7 days a week. A couple of years ago, I started doing just 6 miles a day, 6 days a week, taking Sundays off. The whole time I've taken Sundays off from fasting. I call it my cheat day, but some people take a little bit of issue with that, and they would prefer to just call it a day off, because the idea of like cheating, I guess, is kind of loaded for some people. And so basically on those days, on Sundays, I would just take the day completely off from fasting. So I would just eat, if I wanted to eat 3 meals a day, I would, or just, snacks or whatever. But through Monday through Saturday, I would do one meal a day. So, and then walking, the 6 miles a day of walking was just walking 6 miles. I don't walk at a fast pace. I would say most people would call it kind of a slow pace, probably about 3 miles an hour. Although I don't time myself. I have now I use a Zaruru. I started out with a Fitbit. The Zaruru I'm using is just cheaper, and I like it. But a Fitbit will do the same thing. Any kind of pedometer. I used 14,000 steps is what my goal is, which is 6 miles. And so that is that. So if you have any questions about intermittent fasting or about weight loss in general, the mental side of things, I'm happy to help. Just pop those into the chat. And so also I should mention that I do, like, the way I practice intermittent fasting is a little bit more laid back than what a lot of people do. I drink coffee during my fasting window, and it has half and half. I don't just do black coffee because I don't like black coffee, and so. And I usually have about 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day. And so that's that. And so to let you know how quickly I lost weight, it was about a pound a week when I had the most to lose. So I went from 222 down to like 157, 158. That was my first, like, once I got there, I was like, wow, I feel good here. I wanted to stop, see if I could maintain it, because the holidays were coming up at that time. That was in 2016. It was around November. I said, okay, I want to see if I can maintain this. So I maintained that within about 5 pounds for the first for about 10 months before I decided, I uploaded my first video to YouTube about weight loss, and so then I decided, okay, I'm gonna lose a bit more. When I was doing the maintenance the first time, so I was just trying to maintain around like 5 pounds of 158. I found it was pretty easy to do so. Like, I was still doing intermittent fasting, generally speaking, because I found that I liked doing intermittent fasting. It's not so. What I found was you don't have to be so consistent during maintenance. Maintenance is a little bit easier than weight loss. So and then once I decided, okay, I want to lose a bit more, because I was still like, I think 4 pounds overweight, 3 to 4 pounds overweight, technically speaking, at that point. And so I think in order for me to be in the normal BMI, I need to be below 155. So 154.9 or below, I think, is technically what it is. So I decided, okay, I want to see if I can lose the weight down into the normal BMI. And so I went back to doing OMAD 6 days a week. cheat day on Sunday, walking 6 miles a day. And it took me um, about a year, it was like maybe like 10 months or something like that, in order to get down into the 140. So it took me, I think, maybe 6 months to get, below into a normal BMI. Below 154, and then I decided, I want to maintain in the 140s. Like I found that kind of, it seemed like a point of diminishing returns. So in other words, yeah, I can keep losing the weight, but my life didn't seem to be improving more, if that makes sense. Like it was just kind of like, I'm losing weight and I'm not really noticing a big difference in how I feel or energy levels or anything like that. Although I found a big difference when I went from 222 down to like say 158. There was a huge difference in how I felt. But then from 158 down into the 140s, it was like I felt about the same. So okay, somebody wanted to know, does the Zaruru track minutes exercising like the Fitbit? I don't get the whole motion mode thing. Is it difficult to cycle through the options and cumbersome to start and stop? Okay, that's a good question. So on here, like I'm just gonna, like, I mainly use it as a just a steps tracker. That's all I care about. So I don't pay attention to like how many active minutes. Like it gives me my calorie burn count, which again I don't really pay attention to that either, because I pay attention to what the scale's doing. My son has used it more for the uh like activities and stuff, and he does like it for that, but I've not really delved into that. So I know that you can do that, like say like, okay, I'm starting an activity, and that I think gives you a more accurate calorie estimation. But I've not found it difficult, but again, I don't really use it for that. So uh, and one reason I don't, that might be something to explain, is um, when I was first using my Fitbit, way back, I got it at the end of 2014. So in 2015, I was like, oh, okay, my Fitbit's going to tell me how many calories I can eat, basically, because it's going to keep up with my calorie burn. And I feel like it was way overestimating how many calories I was burning, because like I would try to eat like a big deficit, and according to what it was saying I was burning and according to what I was doing, I mean, and I really did get to a point where I felt like I was really where I had a big deficit, and I was being very, very careful with, like, I was weighing and measuring all my food. And so there was a disconnect there, because based on what the Fitbit was saying I was burning versus what I was actually eating, I should have been losing weight faster. Although there are maybe other reasons for that, but I have heard that Fitbits tend to overestimate how many calories you're actually burning. So all that being said, I think it's more important to pay attention to what the scale's doing and kind of let that be your guide, as opposed to, oh, this tracker said I'm burning this many calories. Um, that's just my own opinion. Okay, so Kim Morris says, I found out that drinking a cup of coffee late in the day helps me extend my fast a little longer. Yeah, I found for myself, because in the beginning with intermittent fasting, I was like, I was reading Martin Berkhan's blog, and he's the guy that does lean gains, and that's where I heard about intermittent fasting originally. That and I think Nerd Fitness maybe was another place, which appealed to me as a nerd, and so they were. I think on his blog he was talking about, like, have a cup of coffee, like add a splash of cream, like whatever basically helps you to get through the fasting window. And what I found was the same thing you found. Is like, if I can have coffee, like I can do OMAD. Like that was my thing. It was like, if I can have coffee, that makes it so, like, it just makes it easier to get through the rest of the day. And uh and so yeah, I would say it helps me. And I know people are like, oh, you shouldn't have cream in your coffee, like, that they get very, very strict with the idea of like what you are allowed to have, and what you're not allowed to have. But I do, like, what I guess some people call dirty fasting, which is I do have coffee with cream in it twice a day. Okay, here's a question. Katie says, I get so tired after I eat, like I need to lay down and take a nap. Will that get better? I'm on day 18. Okay, so you're very, very new to fasting, like day 18. So a couple of things there. A lot of people, I think, do kind of have that. I wonder what your window is, or are you just doing one meal a day? Because doing one meal a day is a very different animal than doing say like a intermittent fasting window. Um, some people do, and I've had times where it's like, wow, after I have my meal, I feel very relaxed, or you know, like even like you're talking about, like I could take a nap right now. That does get better in my experience. Your body just, again, in my experience, it's like it just adapts. So like in the beginning, it's going to be like you're very used to eating this other way. So your body's like, hey, why aren't we having breakfast? Why aren't we having lunch? You know, but eventually, like with me practicing OMAD, when I'm practicing OMAD very, very consistently, it's like I don't think about breakfast. I don't think about lunch. Like it's not like, oh man, I got to get through this time. It's like my body just starts to expect, like, okay, we eat at like say 6 or whatever my schedule is. We eat at that time, and my body is just used to the idea of like when we're done eating, then it's okay. It's like on to the next thing. So, you know, if it's later in the evening, then of course it will be like I'm, you know, kind of winding down for the day. But if it's in the middle of the day, because sometimes it just works better lately, where you know it's more of like a later afternoon kind of meal. It's like, okay, I'm ready to do the next thing. It's like I don't usually feel like, oh, now I need to take a nap. So I think it's just one of those things. Your body does get used to it. It does take time. At this point I've been doing. I mean, I started practicing OMAD back in 2016, so 6 years ago. That's weird to think about, but yeah. Okay. Laurel Reynolds asked, I know you've answered this at some point before, but when you were first fasting, what window did you use before you started seeing a good daily or weekly losses? Like, was it a 16:8, 18:6, or OMAD off bat? Okay, great question. So, in the beginning with intermittent fasting, I was so not consistent. Like, I heard about intermittent fasting in, I think, late 2014. I think that's when I first kind of just heard about it. So in 2015, what I was doing, I was mainly trying to outrun my fork. I was like busting it at the gym, and I thought that's what'll get the weight off. I'm gonna do CrossFit. I'm gonna lift heavy. I like, and that was just in my head. I'm just gonna burn off the calories, and that was a mistake because ultimately it is really hard to outrun your fork and consistently. And so what I was doing during that time, it was just a lot of like sometimes I would do I started out with very short fasting windows. And I mean, first kind of thing I did was like, okay, I'm not going to eat past 10. I'm not going to eat before 6. And then I just started pushing breakfast out later. When I started to really notice results, I would say a 12, 12, 14, 10. And that was when I would be consistent with it. That was the thing. I was so not consistent. And so it's hard to say, like, when exactly did I start to see results? It was really when I became consistent with intermittent fasting. It really wasn't so much about the window. But that being said, I was basically at a 16:8 when I became consistent with intermittent fasting. So could I have seen the same kind of results if I had just been really consistent with a 12:12 or a 14:10? Probably, but really at a 16:8, that was where I was when I really started seeing it, and it was like a pound a week on average of loss. So, and that continued. So even when I was doing OMAD, being consistent with OMAD, walking 6 miles a day, 7 days a week, it was about a pound a week on average, which means there were some weeks where I lost nothing. But generally speaking, it was like about a pound a week. And so to get from, so in 2016, January 2016, I said, okay, I'm going to be consistent with this. Made my plan as easy as possible so that I could stick with it and be consistent. It took me from, let's see, January, it was like April. I kept pushing my window out further and further. And I was like at a 24. I was like, I really like this. I mean, at that point, I was kind of like, the window was so short. I was feeling really good. And then I ended up, like, the stomach bug went through our house. I was like, I can't eat. Like, I didn't want to eat anything, but I was just like, I was scared to eat. I was not sick, but I was just scared to eat because I was afraid I would get sick. And so I ended up like, I could only eat like supper. I was like, okay, I need to eat something. So I would do that. And then uh, I, I was like, hey, I actually like this, like just the eating one time a day, because it simplified my life and stuff. And so I was like, I wonder if other people eat this way. And so I looked it up and I found like, oh, the OMAD, like there's like the OMAD diet is what it was. And I didn't realize they meant one meal a day. Like, I didn't realize it was an acronym. I thought it was talking about like nomads, maybe like ate this way or something. I was very confused, but I saw other people did it. Monks have been doing it for thousands of years. I was like, so I guess you can do this. And so, so then that's when I got to OMAD, and that was like in April of that year. And then I was like, this is what I'll do because it's just so simple. And so, so it probably took me about 4 months really to get from like a 16-8 to OMAD. I wasn't necessarily trying to get to OMAD, it just kind of accidentally happened. So, yeah, really, really gradually. But again, it didn't really speed up the weight loss. About a pound a week, either way. Let's see. Lena Kapoor says, what's your opinion about tracking waist measurements and using that to understand weight loss? Oh, okay. So in 2014, that was when I had my I've had enough moment. Like, I've got to get this weight off. I was really embarrassed. There was a Facebook picture that I got tagged in. I was just really embarrassed. And I was like, I'm getting the weight off. Okay. And so at the same time, I was like, but I'm not going to weigh myself. Like, I had, like, so my whole life, I had struggled with my weight. I would weigh myself. I always felt like the scale was my worst enemy. I hated weighing. I was like, I don't want to be a slave to the scale and all this stuff. So I was like, I know what I'll do. I am going to just measure my waist. Like, and actually, I didn't just measure my waist. I measured like 10 different parts of my body. And so I set up a thing on my Google Calendar. It was like a weekly notification, and it would pop up on my phone, and it was a link to a form. I had created this Google form that was like that asked me all, like, to put in all of my measurements. So it was like like around my upper arm, maybe like my wrist. I mean, like a lot of different areas, so that I could try to understand for myself, am I losing weight? Because I didn't want to get on the scale. Okay, so that first week, I was, and I also took progress photos. So like I would just take pictures of myself in the mirror because I didn't want to be surprised. Like, what do I actually look like in pictures? And so this was like supposed to be photographic evidence of my weight loss. Okay, so I did that for like a year. Like every week I was doing this, and so every week though, I would pull the tape a little tighter. I would like, and I was so desperate to have like a victory because I didn't know what I weighed. So I was like, I need to feel like I'm making progress. And I know that sounds maybe silly. Like, why wouldn't you just like measure yourself accurately? But it's really hard to know if you're measuring accurately. It's like, I've done this more recently. Like, I thought, well, like, how much can you really cheat the tape measure? You know, like, if you just like, if you don't suck in at all and you just kind of like, you're just kind of slouching, and you measure yourself, versus if you sit up really straight and you really suck in, and I could get like 4 or 5 inch you know, spread there. So it's hard. It's really, really hard. It's hard to be honest. It's hard to be accurate. It's hard to like do it exactly the same each week. So in So that year, so from March of 2014 all the way until February 2015, that's what I was doing, and I was really not making progress. I don't know, Jake, if you can put up that picture. I don't know of like the. I just wrote a blog about this, like about how I floundered the first year. Just I didn't make any progress, and basically the reason I wasn't making progress was because I didn't have a quick and easy, accurate way to tell, am I making progress? Am I losing weight? Yeah, that one. Um, and so when I finally got on the scale, and this was about just facing a fear, just like facing a fear and thinking differently about the scale. I had to like get rid of all of my bad attitude about it and just say, look, I want to lose weight. I need to know what I weigh. So I got on the scale, and once I got on the scale, I was like, the number was like a good 40 pounds higher than what I was expecting. Really, really about 50 pounds higher than what I wanted to see. And I didn't even really want to see that number. Um, but when I got on the scale, it's like, okay, now I know what I weigh. And then getting on the scale, like when you get on the scale, you just hop on the scale and you see right away what the number is. And yes, that number can be affected by your water weight. That number does fluctuate, but it's quick, it's easy, and it's exact. So that's why I like weighing, and that's why I don't like waste measurements, because it like when I look back at that, so it's like I think I wasted like a year. I mean, I did learn things during that year, and one thing I learned was it was like really, really hard to be accurate with the waist measurement. So that's my story about waist measuring. Okay, Just Butter says, I have been fasting for doing a 16/8 for a month or so. I haven't really gained weight or lost any weight. I have to change my eating and eat cleaner and work out. But one thing for me, once I eat, I always want a snack. Any advice? Okay, so yes, okay. I would say you can do whatever you want to do, but like I always, when I see people saying like I need to eat cleaner, I need to work out, I question that a little bit, and here's why. I think the main thing, and this is just, I eat everything. I don't try to eat clean or like, because I don't even really, that's such a one of those terms that I feel like I don't even know if most people, like, if there's a real clear definition of what does that actually mean. But just like eating, you can really eat anything and still lose weight. And sometimes working out, like the idea like I just need to work out harder, that can be dangerous too, because when you work out really hard, your appetite increases. And there's a couple of articles, which, I mean, you can find articles that back up anything. That's why I generally don't try to like quote articles. But I just know for myself, when I was working out really, really hard, my appetite was like through the roof. And a lot of people do find it difficult to lose weight when they are working out really hard. But that being said, okay, so instead, here's what my philosophy of food is: you can eat anything you want. And what I found for myself was, when I did say I can eat whatever I want, there are no forbidden foods. I'm not trying to. I didn't do like low carb or high protein, anything. I eat the food, whatever we have available. That's what I eat, um, and I'm grateful for it. Um, and once I did that, I found that I had stopping power. Like before, the way I always thought of things, like I really shouldn't have cake. I can't. I need to take it easy on the cake, or whatever, or the Oreos or whatever. And I shouldn't have this and I shouldn't have that. And but when I just said I can eat anything I want, like all the food's good. I just have to figure out how to eat the right amount. Um, I just had stopping power, like when it was no longer forbidden, then I found self control. So and so, okay, once you eat, you always want a snack. So you're on a 16/8. So I guess what you mean is, once you eat your meal, then you want a snack afterwards. But so snacking for me, what I found was that generally speaking, snacks were tied to emotional eating, or just any kind of not necessarily like I am so upset I need to eat, but it was more like I don't really want to do that thing, like so I'm procrastinating, so let's have a snack instead. Or like I'm mad about this thing, or I'm stressed out about this, or I'm sad about this. Like snacking was usually a way to distract myself. Uh, so one thing that helped me on the whole snacking front, because that was it. It was like I didn't want to just say to myself, "You can't have snacks." Because I thought, well, maybe sometimes I do want to have a snack. Um, but so how to figure that out? So what I did was I made a rule for myself, which was if I want a snack, then I have to only have the snack. So I will sit down at the dining room table. There will be no TV on, there will be no music on, there will be no phone at the table, no books, nothing to distract me. I can sit down and I can eat whatever I want, but it has to be like I have to be like focused completely on that snack. And that was really interesting because then I was like, I don't really want a snack. Like what I generally wanted to do was I wanted to like sit down and watch some TV and have a snack. But when I got rid of that stuff and it was just like just focusing on the snack, it's like I don't really want to eat. Um, but so I think it is helpful to really look at the snacking, how you're feeling, like kind of ask yourself, are you stressed out about anything right now? Why the snack? Um, if you're not eating enough at a meal, that's another thing. Like, so sometimes what happens is it's like you have a tiny little something for to open your window with or whatever, and then you are hungry because you're not full, and that's why I tend to like the idea of like satiating meals. Like so, eat till you're full. I mean, that was generally when I was doing more like windows, like a 16/8. I generally my goal was kind of like have a meal, be full, eat enough so that I can make it make it till supper time, like where I don't feel like I need a snack. And so yeah. So a hard and fast rule against snacking I don't think is necessary, but I think it's really tricky. Like snacks are really really tricky because you can eat a lot of calories. You really can, and not really realize it. Because snacking, it can just be so like, oh, just a bite here, bite there, and then you can end up eating a lot of calories. Um, so I hope that helps you. Mollusk in says, can you do a 10,000 calorie cheat day like on the slow carb diet if you eat OMAD? I have, okay, so let's see, 10,000 calories in general. I mean, I'm not sure how to eat like 10,000. I mean, I'm trying to think of a way to like mentally think of like how much food would that be? Okay. I mean, here's what ultimately my answer would be. If you do a 10,000 calorie cheat day, and if you have a 10,000 calorie deficit for the week, then you would maintain. But 10,000 calories is a lot. I mean, like, I was just reading about Supersize Me. I was reading an article about John Cisna, a guy he's a science teacher who he decided, okay, the Supersize Me documentary came out, and he thought this is not good because the guy was Morgan Spurlock, the guy who did Supersize Me, was eating 5,000 calories a day, and it's like, well, of course you're going to gain weight. So this John Cisna guy, he's like, I'm going to go to McDonald's and I'm going to lose weight. And so that's what he did. He ate at McDonald's every day for I can't remember how many days straight. It was several months, and he lost 56 pounds, 57 pounds. So like the idea of like, why would you eat 10,000 calories? I mean, I don't think that's a good idea. Like most people, and I mean, it does depend on your weight, but most people, like, for example, at about my weight and height and age, 15 to 1700 calories a day. So, I mean, like, if you do 10,000 calories, that's like, you know, that's like way too much. That's like 10 days worth of calories. Well, maybe not 10 days, but that's a lot of calories. So I'm trying to figure out like what the slow carb diet is. That a thing with the slow carb diet? You're supposed to eat 10,000 calories in a day? I don't know. I ultimately, and I think I said this already, but maybe not. Ultimately, the way I think intermittent fasting, OMAD, all that stuff works is it just helps you to eat the right amount of calories. It's not as if calories don't count. Calories always count. It's just a matter of figuring out like how to get yourself to eat the right amount of calories. And so I don't. I mean, 10,000 calories just I don't. It would be. I would think it would be really difficult to even eat that many. That's a lot of calories. I don't know. I guess I've never tried to see like how can I mean I'm not saying that people can't do that, like as far as like physically I'm sure you can, but that just seems like that's okay. Wow, people do people do that apparently. I don't know, like I guess I don't even see the value in it, because here's the thing, like I I look at OMAD, all the weight loss journey is trying to figure out how do I eat the appropriate amount of food. And it's like just trying to learn that, not trying to figure out like how can I have a day where I gorge myself, you know, like even on my cheat days, it was about just like eating like a normal person, not to like just gorge on food. So hopefully that answers the question. Sorry if I was unclear. If you have like a follow up, I'd be happy uh, to follow up. Okay, Shell Fauch or Fouché? I'm sorry, I probably butchered your name. Uh, Hi, did you adjust your fasting when you had your menstrual cycle? Aha, that's a good question. So I did not adjust the fasting. Like I would just do my OMAD. Here are some things. Okay, one thing I must say is back back when I started doing intermittent fasting, I remember this is when we instituted emergency chocolate, and so uh, my husband would notice like there was a certain time of month that I would get, well, what would the word be, hangry or whatever, and it was usually just like 1 or 2 days before the cycle would start, and I think one time he just brought me a Snickers. He's like, just eat this, you know. And so apparently, like I think maybe the fasting accentuated the mood change a little bit. So we called that my emergency chocolate. And what I found was like I didn't need that every single month, and but it was just like a I would I would eat it if it was like he gave me, if he like brought me some chocolate, I would eat it. And so that would be the one change as far as like, you know, I would still be doing like OMAD, but like on that day I would not do OMAD technically because I would have had the piece of chocolate or whatever it was, and then just have my OMAD at the regular time. Also, I have noticed generally during my cycle, my appetite does increase. Like I feel hungrier. So, and I also find I tend to eat faster. So I like try to be really, really aware of that, and I try to slow down, but it's more difficult. I mean, I don't know what to tell you except for I think it's hormonal. Um, but my ultimate goal with all this is to always do whatever feels sustainable. So you know, you have to just figure out for yourself, like, do you feel, you know, like if it becomes too difficult, like if it's like I am absolutely miserable when I'm on my period, I can't do OMAD, then okay, just create a new rule. Like, okay, during OMAD, or sorry, during the period, I'm gonna do 2 meals a day, or I'm gonna do intermittent fasting, whatever it takes to like get you through that week. Um, there you go. But otherwise, everything else has been great as far as like cycle length and regularity and everything. I've not noticed any kind of difference with practicing fasting. Laurel Reynolds asks, so if your OMAD was was it more for practicality and maybe feeling better than speeding up weight loss? You had the same results doing a 16-8 as OMAD. That's so interesting. Yeah, it is really interesting. because I thought, like when I thought, man, if I go to OMAD, the weight, I mean, I thought it was just going to fall off. I mean, I did it because of practicality, but also I really thought it's really going to fall off, and it just didn't. That first I think week of doing it, I did have like a pretty big drop, because like I said, I went from, like it was like 24 down to one meal a day, and there was a pretty big drop. But then like I went through a plateau, and that was pretty surprising. I was like, oh, like what's going on here? But then after that, it was just like a pound a week. I think because your body adjusts to it. It's like, hey, it wants a certain amount of food, and generally speaking, everything I've read seems to suggest. And again, you can find studies that will either agree with it or say, oh, it really should be this way. But a pound a week is a really good rate of loss. Like if you're obese, like 2 pounds is maybe doable, but 1 pound a week is a consistent 1 pound a week is really good. I did not realize that before. I used to think, oh, you need to be losing 5 pounds a week or you're just not trying hard enough. But a pound a week is good. Okay. Let's see. Alina Kapoor, when's the next testimonial of OMAD success stories video coming? They're very inspiring. I agree. I love doing the success story videos. I have not had people like email about it recently. I also have not done a great job of reaching out to people and inviting them to come on. We've had some stuff going on, so that's why there haven't been videos. But I do plan on, when people reach out, doing the videos. I have in the past. I started to have like some second thoughts about doing success story videos, like encouraging people to come onto YouTube and share their stories. The reason for that is that sometimes people can be mean in the comment section, and putting your weight loss journey out there in the public eye like that, it can add unnecessary pressure. It can stress you out and stuff, and so it's kind of difficult for me, and to really like encourage people to do that, because I've had some people come on and share their stories, and like sometimes in the comment section people can be so mean. And so what I started doing, sometimes what I would just turn off the comments uh, for that particular video. I've gone through periods of time where I just turn off the comments section altogether on YouTube. So it's kind of difficult, but because on the other hand, people get a lot of help from hearing other people's stories. So I'm still reaching out to people. Hopefully, I can find some more people who will come on and share their story. So thanks for that question. Angel Marwa says, how many calories did you eat during your eating window? That's a great question, and I don't know. I a while back, oh, this is years ago, I did like a intermittent fasting meal plan blog post, because everybody asked, like, well, how many calories are you eating, and like what do you eat? And so I did this blog post where I just listed everything I ate for the week. And if you're really like, I didn't do the calorie count for it because, again, I mean, I don't know how helpful that is for a few reasons. One, because it depends on the individual person, like my height, weight, how much muscle mass I have, how active I am during the day. That is, that's gonna affect, how many calories do I need in order to maintain my weight or to lose weight if I'm trying to lose weight. And so it'll be different for you. So like, let's say it's like, well, I eat 1,500 calories a day, or I eat 1,700 calories a day. I mean, I assume it's probably in that range, I would assume. But I don't count calories on a general day-to-day basis, because I do find I get obsessive. Like I did that for a short period of time in 2015. I was like, I'm going to weigh and measure, or well, at first it's like, I'm just going to log all my food. And then it went to, I'm going to be really, really accurate with with that. I'm gonna, make sure that I don't just say PB&J. Like I actually, put how much peanut butter and all this stuff. And eventually I got to the point where I was like weighing and measuring all of my food. And like I said, I was just getting kind of obsessive about it, and it was I was getting very resentful of that. And so I did that for I think like 3 or 4 months. I mean, like logging, and then eventually like weighing and measuring. Weighing and measuring, I think was about 2 or 3 weeks, and I was just like done. Um, it was informative because it did show me how many calories I could eat, like as far as like how quickly the calories add up, and that showed me like if the scale's moving up, it's because I'm eating too much, and it's really easy to eat too many calories. So that was helpful. But so I would guess probably about 15 to 1700 calories. I would assume. It might be more than that. It might be a little less than that, but I would say it's probably at least 1500 calories. Um, but you could if you wanted to go and like add up those calories and see what I was eating at that time. Because I would say I don't think it's really changed much. I put the link in. Yeah, Jay put the link in the chat, and it's not really changed much since then, as far as amounts that I eat and what I eat. It's pretty much stayed the same. Mary Hale says, "Can you get all the nutrients you need eating OMAD?" I think yes, because really you're eating. Ultimately, I've been eating this amount I need, and I've been fine. Like I said, I've been doing this for OMAD for 6 years. I mean, although there have been times where I've done 2 meals a day or more of like intermittent fasting during that time, and I do take Sundays off, and in my opinion, yeah, like because you're just squishing all your food into one meal, and so that's kind of like saying, well, how can you get enough nutrients in 3 meals a day? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you can get it in 3 meals a day, you can still get it in 1 meal a day because it's really just eating the proper amount of food. I don't get sick very often. I feel very healthy. I have good energy levels. I sleep well. Um, I didn't have any cavities. I haven't had cavities in years. So I feel like all those are good like markers of health. So there you go. Melissa Lewis asked, "Do y'all still travel?" Well, we RV'd for 2 years, and it was a wonderful time. But we stopped traveling, or well, not stopped traveling, but we did stop RVing. We have not really traveled much in the past couple of years, mainly because of the craziness with all the mandates and stuff like that. We just would rather stay in Florida, where we're at right now, and we've explored around here, go fishing and crabbing and stuff like that. So we still adventure. We just haven't traveled per se very much. Lena Kapoor asked, "What do you do for supplements, potassium, sodium, magnesium, and such?" I don't take any. If I ever found that I felt like I was deficient in anything, my understanding is usually there are symptoms. Like if you're deficient in something, your body will let you know. And so if I ever got to that point, I would do something about that. But I don't take a multivitamin. That's one of those things, like in my life, sometimes I've taken one, sometimes I haven't. I've looked at different studies, and like this one I looked at was like, oh, it's great for you, and other ones like don't bother with it because they're really not that helpful, and other ones like, oh, it can actually increase your risk of like cancer and stuff. I was like, well, that's that's not good. So basically I just don't. But if I ever did do a supplement, it would just be like a once a day multivitamin. Yeah, Melissa said, with this way of eating, I'll stop my fast when I'm truly hungry to get in tune with myself, no calorie counting. And I found, that it's totally possible to do it that way. I do that's one thing I like, or one thing I really like about that idea is that you're really paying attention to your body more than you are like the package, like the little nutrition facts and stuff. Um, and your body, like, it's interesting. Your body does, I think, let you know like when you've had enough, and it lets you know if you're not eating enough too. Like when you feel sluggish and just irritable and all that. I mean, I think it's your body saying, "Hey, you need to eat a little bit more." I mean, some that can be tricky because sometimes it might not be that you really need to eat more. It's like there's other stress. And that's why it is helpful to be aware of like how many calories there are in things, because I mean sometimes that can be a thing with people. They're convinced that they're not eating too much, but it's like if you counted the calories, you would see that you are. Um, but um, but yeah, you can certainly lose weight without just counting calories. Let's see. Grace Marsh says, I was finding that I couldn't stop eating when I broke my fast, but now I eat more protein, and that has helped. Yeah, a lot of people do find protein is really good at helping you with satiety. Satiety? Generally speaking, it's harder to eat too much meat, although it is possible. Uh, like, to eat too many calories when it comes to like meat. Like if you just have a plate full of meat, you're going to end up stopping at fewer calories probably than if you had a plate full of Oreos, generally speaking. Yeah, protein's very good for helping you feel full. Carla Jonker says, do you include extended fast or do you just stick with OMAD? Yeah, I basically stick with OMAD. I've done 2 5-day fasts. So I did one in 2018 and another in 2020, just before the pandemic. I haven't done one since then. I was thinking the other day, I was like, I think it's about time for another one. I do those not for weight loss. And I was very strict with myself about the idea of extended fast. And the reason for that was I knew my weight would really drop fast on an extended fast, because it does. Like I mean, I lost, I think like 12 pounds. I think 12 pounds on each one, or it was around that. That's a lot of weight to lose, but it's not like real weight. I mean, in a way it is, in a way it's not. It's a lot of water weight. And another thing that happens is that your body really tries to make up for it afterwards. At least in my experience, that's what I found. So I knew that if I did an extended fast in the midst of trying to lose weight, then it would, like, I would feel like I was failing when I wasn't dropping weight that fast. Does that make sense? So like if I dropped 12 pounds in 5 days, then it would be like I would never be happy with 1 pound a week. But that's not sustainable. And so what I found, I said, okay, I'm just gonna do the extended fast when I'm done losing weight, when I'm ready to maintain at a weight. So that's what I did. And so I lost the 12 pounds or whatever, but it came back on, like, and so initially there's like a rebound, because it's just water weight. Like your body just like fills back up with water or whatever. Quite frankly, I don't know exactly how it works. All I know is the weight goes off so quickly and comes back on so quickly. It seems like it would need to be water, mostly. But another thing that happened for me, and this happened both times, was my appetite seemed to like have this rebound effect. So like once I started back eating, I just had a bigger appetite, and it was like harder to stop at what I would have normally stopped at. Does that make sense? Like, so if I normally have, you know, 2 plates of spaghetti. Well, usually it's 1 plate of spaghetti. Let's say 1 plate. Let's just say this. If I normally had 1 plate of spaghetti and 1 garlic knot, it'd be like I need 2 plates of spaghetti and 2 garlic knots. That kind of a thing. And I don't know. I feel like it's just your body's way of like trying to get back to where it was, because your body doesn't want to just like drop a ton of weight really quickly. It wants to keep you alive for as long as possible. That's my theory. So that's why I stick with OMAD. Generally speaking, I don't do extended fast for weight loss purposes. All right. Let's see. Maria says, following you for quite a while, so proud of your success story. Thanks. Are you doing the 101 program still or not anymore? No, I don't have the courses anymore. Just due to scheduling and things like that. I shut down all that. If you ever bought a course, you still have access to it, but I'm not actively doing enrollment or anything anymore. Lena Kapoor says, did you say garlic naan? I don't remember saying garlic
I think
naan.
you said garlic knots.
Oh, garlic knots. Yes, garlic knots. Although I do love naan. Oh man, I love Indian food. Um, I make butter chicken, which is chicken tiki masala. Is that right? I don't know, but I think that's the correct name for it. And then I have made naan, and it is really good. I love Indian food. Uh, I'm actually making that tonight. Um, all right. Laurel, sorry, I get you see how much I love food, so this is why OMAD works for me. Laurel Reynolds says, I've been wondering about doing extended fast too. That's an angle I never thought of. Yeah, yeah, the greater losses making the regular losses not feel sufficient, and that's just a thing. Just in general on the weight loss journey, it is hard. Like, because there are going to be some weeks where you're gonna maybe lose 2 pounds, and then the next week you lose 0 pounds, and then you think what happened, and then it's really hard to just think of it in the terms of, well, that's really just a loss on average of a pound a week. Um, and so it's just it's a mental game mainly, and it's hard not to get addicted to big losses. And I think that can be a thing. Like in certain diets and stuff, you do drop. Like the initial week, it's like, oh wow, you lost like 5 pounds, 10 pounds, but really mostly it's water weight, and then it can feel like failure when the next week it just kind of levels off. So, um, all right. Let's see, JD Forsyth. Okay, we got 4 minutes left, so we're almost done here. Ask, would like to move to OMAD, but concerned about the diabetic meds. Okay, so certainly talk to your doctor about what like what you're trying to do. And I don't know if it's type 1 or type 2. I certainly know there's some, you have to be careful with all that stuff. Anytime you're on medication, you always want to talk to your doctor thoroughly about what you're trying to do, and all this. And ultimately, I would say this, like, um, the thing about OMAD is, in my opinion, there's no magic there. So, like, if you're in a situation where it's like, well, my doctor said I can't do OMAD, I have to eat 3 meals a day. Well, I mean, again, it's the same principle. The same principle is like, you can't eat too many calories or you'll gain weight. And if you want to lose weight, you have to eat fewer calories. OMAD just makes it easier to eat fewer calories. So definitely talk to your doctor, because I am not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a nutritionist or dietitian, anything like that. I'm just somebody who's been there, done that. So, all right. Well, I think that is it. Oh, I forgot to mention, I have books about this stuff. Um, oh, thank you, Laurel Reynolds, for the super chat there. That was very kind of you. Uh, oh, well, and that's my goal with the channel, is to try to say, look, if I can do this, anybody can do this. I love food, and I love, all the foods traditionally that people would say, oh, you got to cut that out if you want to, eat, if you want to lose weight. And so I've got a few books: The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, and that's all about like exactly how I practice intermittent fasting. Overcoming weight loss obstacles, that's about all the hard parts of the weight loss journey, and I've included a lot of stories about different things I would come up against, and how I handled it. And I also wrote a young adult fiction novel called Escape from Olszek's Castle. So there you go. Thank you guys for joining me, and thanks for all the good questions. I had a good time. Hopefully it was helpful, and I will see you guys the next time we do one of these live Q&As. Thanks.